September 9th, 2022, Windsor Castle, 3:47 a.m. In the hours after Queen Elizabeth II's death, her most trusted private secretary, Sir Edward Young, stood in her private study, holding a leather-bound journal that had been locked away for decades. Inside were the Queen's most private thoughts about the woman who had both captivated and nearly destroyed the monarchy, Princess Diana. What he read in those handwritten pages would shock him to his core. These weren't the measured diplomatic words of a constitutional monarch. These were the raw, unfiltered thoughts of a woman who had watched Diana threaten everything she had spent 70 years protecting. But what the Queen wrote about Diana in her final entry would reveal the shocking truth about how she really felt about the people's princess, the diary that changed everything. September 9th, 2022, 4:15 a.m., Windsor Castle. Sir Edward Young had served as the Queen's private secretary for 8 years, but he had never seen this particular diary. Hidden in a secret compartment of Her Majesty's private desk, it was bound in deep blue leather with ER private thoughts embossed in gold. The Queen had left specific instructions. This diary is to be sealed for 50 years after my death. However, if circumstances require it, my private secretary may review its contents to protect the monarchy. Sir Edward's hands trembled as he opened to the first entry about Diana, dated July 30th, 1981, the day before the royal wedding. July 30th, 1981, the eve of Charles's wedding. Tomorrow, Charles marries Lady Diana Spencer. She is beautiful, young, and the public adores her already. But I am deeply concerned. This girl has no understanding of what she is entering. During our private conversation today, she asked me if she would be happy as a princess. I told her happiness was not guaranteed in our position. Duty was. The look in her eyes told me she had never considered this. I fear we may have chosen the wrong girl for this role. Charles seems infatuated, but infatuation fades. What remains when it does? ER. But wait, you haven't seen what the Queen wrote after Diana's first public appearances, the early doubts. October 15th, 1981. 3 months into marriage, Sir Edward turned the pages, finding increasingly concerned entries about the new Princess of Wales. October 15th, 1981. Diana attended her first state dinner tonight. She looked radiant, but she was clearly overwhelmed. She forgot protocol twice, spoke too familiarly with foreign dignitaries, and I noticed her hands shaking throughout the evening. Margaret leaned over and whispered, "She's like a deer in headlights." I'm beginning to think we underestimated how difficult this transition would be for someone so young and inexperienced. Charles seems oblivious to her distress. Meine Stink. January 3rd, 1982. Diana is pregnant. The nation is ecstatic, but I am worried. She has been increasingly emotional, and palace staff report she's been crying frequently. When I asked Charles about it, he said she's being dramatic and will settle down once the baby arrives. I'm not so certain. There's something fragile about this girl that concerns me. The Spencer family has a history of instability. Have we made a terrible mistake? Meine Stink. Hold up. The Queen's entries during Diana's pregnancy reveal shocking observations. The pregnancy crisis. April 20th, 1982. Diana's first pregnancy. April 20th, 1982. Diana fainted during the Easter service today. The official line is that she was overcome by the spring warmth, but Dr. Linnet told me privately that she's not eating properly. A pregnant princess who won't eat. What are we to do with this? Charles says she's being difficult and seeking attention. But when I look at Diana, I don't see someone seeking attention. I see someone drowning. The question is whether we should throw her a rope or let the monarchy distance itself from her struggles. Philip thinks I'm being too sympathetic. Perhaps he's right. Me AR. June 21st, 1982. William's birth. Today my grandson William was born. Diana did well during the delivery, though she seemed more relieved than joyful. When I held William for the first time, Diana said something that chilled me. At least I've done my duty now. I realized that this young woman sees herself not as a mother or a princess, but as a function. How terribly sad. Yet perhaps that clarity about her role might serve the monarchy well. Me AR. Don't miss this detail. What the Queen observed about Diana's changing personality. The transformation begins. September 12th, 1983. The Australia tour. September 12th, 1983. Charles and Diana have returned from their Australia tour, and something fundamental has changed. Diana discovered her power with the public, and it's both magnificent and terrifying to watch. The crowds chanted her name, not Charles's. She has become, in 18 months, more popular than any royal in my lifetime. Charles is sulking about being overshadowed, but he fails to understand what I see clearly. Diana has become more valuable to the monarchy than he is. This is unprecedented and dangerous. Minor, E.R. February 8, 1984. Diana attended the charity gala alone last night. Charles had his state business. We all know where he really was. She was poised, confident, and radiant. The press coverage this morning focused entirely on her. She's learning to use her popularity as a weapon, and I'm not sure whether to admire her or fear her. She's no longer the trembling girl who married my son. She's becoming something much more formidable. Minor, E.R. This is where the Queen's tone completely changes. The growing threat. November 30th, 1985. The power shift. November 30th, 1985. Diana danced with John Travolta at the White House last night, and the image has been broadcast around the world. She looked like a movie star, not a princess. The Americans are absolutely besotted with her. But more concerning is that she orchestrated this moment deliberately. She's learning to manipulate the media with frightening skill. Charles appears weak and irrelevant beside her growing star power. I begin to understand that we haven't just gained a princess. We may have created a rival to the crown itself. E.R. March 15, 1987. Diana's solo appearances now generate more positive press than the entire rest of the family combined. She hugged an AIDS patient today, and the image is on every front page. It was a calculated move that painted her as compassionate, while making the rest of us appear cold. She's becoming dangerous to the establishment, though I suspect she doesn't fully realize her own power yet. When she does, we will have a problem. E.R. But you're not ready for what the Queen wrote about Diana's marriage breakdown. The Marriage Wars. August 7, 1989. The affair becomes public. August 7, 1989. The Charles and Camilla situation has become untenable. Diana knows everything and is no longer pretending otherwise. Yesterday she asked me directly, "Ma'am, how long am I expected to play the happy wife while my husband flaunts his mistress?" I had no answer that would satisfy her. Diana has every right to be furious, but her fury is becoming public, and that threatens us all. She's too popular to divorce quietly, and too angry to stay silent. We are trapped by our own success in creating her public image. January 22, 1991. Diana gave an interview to charity organizers about the loneliness of public service. Every word was carefully chosen to sound noble, while revealing her unhappiness. She's become a master of coded messaging to the public. Meanwhile, Charles grows more resentful of her popularity, and more obvious about his affair. I feel like I'm watching a slow-motion explosion that will destroy everything we've built. Neither of them will back down, and the monarchy is caught in the middle. Inuri Chartlaw. You're not going to believe what the Queen wrote about the Morton book. The Morton Book Crisis. June 15, 1992. Diana's Secret Cooperation. June 15, 1992. The Morton book has been published, and it's exactly as devastating as I feared. Diana's cooperation is obvious despite her denials. She has essentially declared war on us through a sympathetic journalist. The book paints her as a victim, and us as cold, uncaring villains. The public believes every word because Diana's public image makes it credible. She has outmaneuvered us completely. I am forced to admire her strategy even as it appalls me. She has turned her pain into a weapon and pointed it at the heart of the monarchy. Enzupli R. December 9th, 1992. Separation announcement. Today we announced Charles and Diana's separation. I feel like I'm presiding over the controlled demolition of everything I've spent 40 years building. Diana looked composed and dignified during the meeting where we discussed terms. She knows she holds all the cards. The public loves her and sympathizes with her situation. We cannot attack her without appearing to persecute a wronged woman. She has achieved something I thought impossible. She has made the monarchy need her more than she needs us. Enzupli R. Don't miss this shocking entry. The Queen's reaction to the Panorama interview. The Panorama betrayal. November 21, 1995. The interview that shocked the world. November 21, 1995. Diana's BBC interview aired last night, and I finally understand the full extent of her strategic thinking. There were 3 of us in this marriage. That single line will be remembered forever. She didn't just tell her story. She destroyed Charles's reputation while appearing vulnerable and sympathetic. The public now sees her as a wronged woman fighting against a cold, outdated institution. She has turned the monarchy into the villain of her story. It was masterfully done, and it may have dealt us a blow from which we never recover. I have underestimated this young woman catastrophically. Enzupli R. December 20th, 1995. I wrote to Diana today, suggesting that divorce would be in everyone's best interests. It felt like signing a surrender document. Diana has forced my hand completely. She can no longer remain in the family. She has become too powerful and too dangerous. But in losing her, we lose the most popular member of the royal family. The irony is bitter. The woman we brought in to save the monarchy may have doomed it instead. But here's the most shocking part. What the Queen wrote after Diana's death. The final entries. September 1st, 1997. The day after Diana's death. September 1st, 1997. Diana is dead, and I feel relief. This is a terrible thing to write, but it's true. The woman who had become our greatest threat can no longer harm us. The public is grieving, but grief fades. Her power over them died with her. Yet I also feel genuine sadness. Diana was, in many ways, magnificent. She transformed the monarchy's relationship with the public, even as she threatened to destroy us. She made us more human, more accessible, more relevant, but she also made us vulnerable. Her death is a tragedy, but it may also be our salvation. History will remember her as a saint. That may be easier to manage than the living, breathing threat she had become. The public outpouring of grief was unlike anything I've witnessed. Earl Spencer's eulogy was a barely veiled attack on our family. But what could we do? Diana had won, even in death. She had turned the public against us so completely that we were forced to mourn publicly with them or appear heartless. But watching William and Harry walk behind her coffin, I realized Diana's greatest victory. She had raised those boys to be different from us. They have her warmth, her emotional intelligence, her connection to people. Perhaps that will save the monarchy in the end. Ni-R, the most revealing entry. What the Queen really thought of Diana's legacy. The legacy assessment. July 1st, 2007, 10 years after Diana's death. July 1st, 2007, 10 years since Diana's death. A decade has passed, and I can assess Diana's impact more clearly. She fundamentally changed the monarchy, not always for the better, but undeniably forever. We are more accessible, more emotional, more in touch with the people. These changes felt dangerous when she was implementing them, but they may have saved us. The public expects different things from royalty now, and William and Harry embody those expectations perfectly. Diana's greatest achievement was not her charity work or her style. It was ensuring that her sons would be the kind of royals the modern world wants. She played a longer game than any of us realized. But wait, the Queen's final entry about Diana will shock you. The final revelation. June 2nd, 2022. Platinum Jubilee. Sir Edward found the Queen's final entry about Diana, written just months before her death. June 2nd, 2022. Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Today marked my 70 years on the throne. As I watched William and Catherine on the balcony with their children, I realized Diana achieved something I never could. She humanized the monarchy without destroying it. I spent decades trying to maintain the mystique and dignity of the crown. Diana stripped that away and showed the world that royals could be both majestic and relatable. I fought her for years, but she was right. The monarchy she envisioned, warm, accessible, emotionally intelligent, is the one that will survive into the future. I wish I had understood this sooner. I wish I had supported her instead of seeing her as a threat. Diana wasn't trying to destroy the monarchy. She was trying to save it, and she succeeded. ER. The most shocking revelation of all. The secret admission. August 15th, 2022. The Queen's final entry about Diana. The very last entry Sir Edward found was dated just weeks before the Queen's death, August 15th, 2022. I have been thinking about Diana as my own death approaches. History will judge whether I handled her correctly, and I fear that judgment will be harsh. The truth is that Diana was everything I was not. Spontaneous, emotional, intuitive, beloved. I saw these qualities as weaknesses when they were actually strengths. She connected with people in ways I never could. She made them love the monarchy by making them love her. My great regret is that I spent so much energy trying to control her instead of learning from her. She was the most remarkable woman I ever knew, and I failed to appreciate her until it was too late. If I could speak to her now, I would tell her, "You were right about almost everything, and I'm sorry it took me 25 years to admit it." ER. Sir Edward closed the diary, tears in his eyes. The Queen's final judgment of Diana was clear. Admiration, regret, and recognition that the woman she had once seen as a threat had actually been the monarchy's salvation. The truth, Queen Elizabeth II's private thoughts about Diana, reveal a complex relationship between two remarkable women, who both loved the monarchy, but had very different visions for its future. The Queen saw Diana as dangerous because she was uncontrollable. Diana was dangerous because she was unstoppable. In the end, the Queen realized that Diana's vision, a more human, accessible, emotionally connected monarchy, was not just better than her own, it was essential for survival. The People's Princess had won the ultimate victory. She had changed the Queen's mind,